So, yesterday, we did the very first episode of the show. I mostly was disappointed, again. I'd forgotten some of the unnecessary bullshit that they added or changed. And today we're gonna do episode 2, which I'm gonna hate more. Because at least episode 1 has a few things that I actually really do like. Few, but episode 2... I remembered not as much of it. I think I kind of just sat through it the first time, so it will be interesting to revisit it because it will be less fresh in my mind than episode 1, if that makes any sense, because episode 1 was like the milestone for it. So today we're gonna be going over episode 2. So oh yeah, this is where we started in a different place. Yeah, this is Indonesia. This is what they were talking about in Jakarta a few days before the outbreak in the US. I mean, this has nothing to do with the game. This is completely new. So I think I can just appreciate it for what it is instead of comparing it to the game. I remember it being okay. I don't remember there being subtitles in the first episode when two characters spoke in Arabic to each other. There was no like translation on screen or a transcript, nothing. The subtitles just said speaking Arabic. That bothered me because it's like, no, the subtitles should give you at least a transcript and if not, a translation into the language that the person's watching it in. If the person's watching it in English, you should translate it to English. If the person's watching it in Spanish, you should translate it to Spanish, etc., etc. Obviously, if the person is watching it in Arabic, you don't need to translate, right? So here it just says speaking Indonesian, but then there's a translation. I guess that bothers me less because it's like the subtitles from the website are just letting you know what language it is, but it bothers me less than just the subtitles going like, I don't fucking know what they're saying, you know, just they're saying something. Here it's just letting you know what language it is, and the subtitles from the show give you the translation.
Apa Bapak tidak salah orang? Ale Bu Ratna, Professor Mycology.
Mycology professor. They're gonna have her analyze one of the infected bodies, right?
Cordyceps tidak bisa bertahan pada manusia.
Yeah, this person is like, Cordyceps doesn't affect humans, and they're like, it's doing that now.
Ibu merasa mual, sebaiknya ibu segera keluar.
Yeah, they still don't know how to deal with it.
Kaki kiri bagian bawah, Bu.
This person was bit, right? Yeah, there's a bite. And you can see the sort of veins that the thing creates. That also happens in the game. People just get like veiny. This person's just gonna see the tendrils.
Apa ini gigitan manusia?
Yeah, I mean, in the game, the explanation of how it transmits is essentially the same, like it transmits through bodily fluids. Though there are a few holes with that I do kind of struggle with the game. Yeah, she got freaked out. And I think she's just gonna be like, there can't be a cure for this.
Dan tidak ada vaksin.
Jadi apa yang harus kami lakukan?
Bom.
She says to bomb the place.
Mulailah pengoboman.
It is true that in canon, they tried to evacuate areas in cities and whatnot to keep as many people, living people, away from them and bomb the shit out of infected or rebels maybe in there.
They would sometimes destroy parts of the city that were lost to the infected or to rebels. That seems like overkill.
That is why Boston looks the way that it looks. And we see the same in Seattle. That checks out.
Saya ingin bersama dengan keluarga, dengan suami dan
But like, originally they evacuate these places. They don't just bomb without warning. This is directed by Neil. Neil, what did you do? You gotta stick to games, man. So this doesn't happen.
Do I look like I'm infected?
Show us your arm.
So now we're having that conversation instead of the moment that it originally happens.
Yeah, it's not getting any worse, is it?
It looks worse in the game. It heals with a ring of fucked up
teeth
marks and cysts and...
Ow!
Fuck you.
What was Marlene doing with an infected kid?
I'm not infected.
Why the hell are we smuggling an infected girl?
I'm not infected. She found me after I was bitten.
And she didn't shoot you.
Clearly not.
Were you with Marlene when you were bitten?
No. I went to her for help afterwards.
Knowing her, I'm surprised she didn't shoot you.
She almost did. They'd make me count to 10 and hold out my hand and then keep it steady. But you know, I think what really impressed them was the fact that I didn't turn into a fucking monster.
I hate what they've done to Ellie.
There's not gonna be anything bad in here?
Just you
Oh, funny.
I know that that becomes like a thing. The nothing bad in there, just you. I'm sorry. Like, again, this is me hyper nitpicking, but I can't imagine Joel, even at the beginning, being like, you're a bad thing, calling Ellie a bad thing. That doesn't make sense to me. It just, I don't know how to explain it. It just feels out of character for me. But Ellie feels completely out of character here. You know, she's not just being a kid, she's being an edgelord, and she's super aggressive, and she's a fucking feral child, and she's sadistic. We'll talk about it later also, but she's sadistic, and it's like, Ellie is sadistic too, don't get me wrong, but she becomes sadistic throughout not just the first game, mostly the second game. The point is that her journey with Joel, and a part of Joel, take away a good chunk of her humanity away from her, and then everything that happens in the second game, she destroys herself, and she becomes a monster, and she loses most of her humanity until she decides to take it back at the very last minute, right before she could completely lose herself. The point is that she becomes sadistic with time. She becomes more like Joel, but as she grows up, as she grows older, she doesn't start out sadistic. That's what makes it such a sad transition, because she starts out as just being a sweet kid, honestly. This is not a sweet kid. I do want to say I do like that they address pissing. I know that sounds weird, but in the game they never address that. We never see anyone pissing anywhere or taking a shit or anything. I'm kind of glad, I guess. I don't want to watch that, but it's like they don't even like talk about it. No one ever goes like, I need to take a shit, I'm gonna go to the woods and take a shit or something. Like, for example, Dina ends up pregnant. When she talks about it with Ellie, she says, I was late a few weeks ago. And it's like, okay, sure, pregnancy, but like, was Dina willing to go on this like revenge mission knowing that she was gonna get her period during that? Like, holy shit, she really is Ellie's ride or die. What the fuck? That is wild. Ellie magically just never gets her period. Abby never gets her period. They never shower.
I don't know about you, but I sure could use a hot shower.
No, I'm guessing they do shower. Abby talks about a soap that she likes.
Hey, got any of those bars of soap that I like? The fine ones?
You know, we see Ellie's bathroom.
Could be worse.
And we also see Joel's shower. And I'm guessing in the WLF they also have showers. But like in the 3 days of Seattle in The Last of Us 2, did they ever like take a shit in the middle of all that? Because we see most of the days. Like, did Abby take a shower between day 2 and day 3? Because she fell into a really nasty pool with Lev. Did they take a shower after that?
I can still taste that gross water in the back of my throat.
Was there a way to do that in the aquarium? Did they just like take a dip in the ocean? Like, what happened, you know? Did Ellie take a shower anywhere in those 3 days? I'm just saying, everyone must smell nasty. That's all I'm saying.
Can you imagine how bad that would smell?
But yeah, I'm glad that they're addressing pissing so much. There's also a guy, a Fedra soldier, pissing in the first episode. I'm glad that they address it, because like, it's never addressed in the games, and it's something that slightly bothers me. And Joel is still like, ooh, I broke my knuckles.
She made it through the fucking night. It doesn't matter. All right, we're still close to the wall. We sneak her back into the QZ.
No killer.
Well, better them than us.
It is true that in the game, Tess is the one that convinces Joel, and she's more hopeful than him. Narratively, she is supposed to be the driving force that gets Joel to continue this job even after Tess dies, right? Even after all that, he has to feel that sort of obligation to her. Tess is supposed to be the driving force that gets Joel to finish the job, and then his motivations change because Ellie grows on him. But Joel starts kind of just putting up with it way earlier than this. Like, he is skeptical. He's like, I don't buy it. But then they escape from Fedra and they're still in the rain, you know, and it's still the same night. Tess is like, okay, what was the plan? You know, like, let's just say for the sake of the argument that you're immune. What then? Like, what are they gonna do? Ellie's like, well, they're trying to find a cure, you know, a vaccine. And Joel is like, okay, yeah, right, we've heard that before. You know, he's like super skeptical of the Fireflies. He probably had a conversation with Tommy about it in the past. And Tess is like, what if it's real though? And he's like, oh my god, I can't believe you're falling for this shit. She's like, no, like, what if it's real? Let's just get her to the place and then we'll be done. And you and I can take it easy. But this is kind of just like Joel is being a bit too withdrawn from it. I don't like the role role that they've given Joel in this relationship in the show. I feel like they misunderstood Joel's hesitance to continue the job before Tess dies, because in the game he never says he's fine with Ellie dying, because he's not. He actually very much would prefer not to have to watch another kid die. I mean, he's having a trauma response in the game, you know? He doesn't go, better have the kid die than us. Like, yes, they are shitty people, but not that shitty, man. He actually tells Tess, do I need to remind you what is out there? And Tess responds with, I get it. Like, I understand you're having a trauma response because you're being reminded of your kid, but we need to finish the job because I said so. And since he follows her orders, he goes along with it. It wasn't just for the sake of having a good female character that Tess needs to be the one in charge here, but also because she is that driving force that pushes Joel and Ellie together. And he's skeptical of the vaccine and the idea of the cure, and he's skeptical of the Firefly's cause, sure. And to be completely honest, now that I've been thinking about it, I don't think he ever really cared for a vaccine. I think he couldn't have cared less if it happened any time, even before Ellie, because he was angry at humanity ever since it killed his daughter. But he's not gonna let a kid die because of that. That's not the Joel I know. Not even after he became such a piece of shit. Honestly, what mostly makes him so shitty is his love for Ellie and what he does out of it. Joel would never say, better them than us. Not with a kid. So I am pretty annoyed at what they have done with Joel in the show. It feels like they took every character's basic idea, basic character traits, and they just amplified that to 200, and they didn't elaborate on anything else, and they just made caricatures out of them, and they took the fucking nuance out of them. And with Tess, it's even weirder because they did the complete opposite. They turned her into some suburban mom. It's very strange. That is not the Tess that I know. It just bothers me. Again, it wasn't just for the sake of feminism that Tess is supposed to be the one in charge of the relationship. It also helps narratively. And since they have made Joel the one that seems to be more in charge here in the show, and Tess kind of just, at some point she did say he responds to me, but it doesn't seem like he does. I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing her trying to talk back to him and him just giving her orders and telling her what to do. He seems to be the one in charge in the show, which I hate. Joel, for that part, is supposed to just be going with the motions because he is just following orders. He's just doing what Tess tells him to. Now they're outside of the QZ. Like, he wouldn't do the whole like, okay, let's sneak her back in. It's just like, okay, let's just fucking finish the job. Now we're halfway through. Let's just get to the other half, finish it, and then we're done. He does want to lay low with Tess, right? I do think that they had a deeper relationship than a lot of people think. I don't think they were just work buddies. I will always say that. I also like that The Last of Us Part 1 was more ambiguous about its straight relationships than its gay ones. Very refreshing, especially for 2013. Holy shit. Like, I've had more arguments with people about whether Tess and Joel were dating than about whether Ellie is gay. Everyone knows she's been gay since 2013, right? But Tess and Joel are more ambiguous in the game. It's like up to interpretation, but I do think they had something.
Well, and also how much this relationship changed over, time and different writing iterations and just conversations that we had about this, even, within just in the last month or so, we've had conversations about this. It's like, what is their relationship? Because we never define it. I think anybody else would put it on the nose, they're lovers or whatever. But there's no like loving embrace. There's no kiss that Joel and Tess have. It's just such an interesting relationship.
And the challenge was to try to, how much can we convey just through nonverbal interaction?
Right.
But anyway, meanwhile, Ellie, this whole time, she's just a kid, she has her abandonment issues. She's struggling with the fact that she has to be away from Marlene, especially since Marlene was so hurt. Because again, they had a way stronger relationship than here, which is why Marlene's decision and Joel's decision in the end are both so heavy. They're very heavy decisions. They're the two tracks in the trolley problem. Joel takes one track, Marlene takes the other. Neither of them are right or wrong. It's a moral dilemma for a reason. We'll talk about it later a little bit more, but it's what gives her decision so much weight because she loves Ellie as if she were her own kid. She promised her mom she would look after her. And it's not just like anything. It's not just that she was close to Anna, but she wasn't close to Ellie. No, she was close to Anna, very close to Anna, but she was also really close to Ellie. I understand that this is supposed to be like an alternate universe kind of version of The Last of Us, but if you're gonna change the characterization characterization this much, you need to change what happens to the characters as well and what decisions they make. Because if you make Ellie such an apathetic little fucking brat that doesn't care about others' feelings, it would make sense that Ellie doesn't care as much about the Fireflies or anything like that, or the cure, if her survivor's guilt is gone, you know? We'll talk about it more when Tess dies, but the way that she reacts to it, it just takes away so much weight from the ending for me.
Why are you so important to Marlene? Don't lie to me, or we'll take you back.
Take me back, you know.
Then you must have heard that he wants to shoot you. Joel and I aren't good people. We're doing this for us, because apparently you're worth something.
This is a bit on the nose. We get it, man. You've already had this conversation. We know that she's just cargo. And we know from what we've seen that you're shitty people. You don't need to explain it to us or to Ellie. Why are we doing this? Like, the point of Tess saying, guess what, we're shitty people, Joel. It's been that way for a long time to Joel, is not for exposition. That is not for the sake of telling the audience that Tess is shitty or that Joel is shitty. It's also not for the sake of letting Ellie know that they're shitty people. I think Ellie is well aware. The point of Tess saying that to Joel is that it is more of a confession, and it is also kind of an attempt at a wake-up call for Joel. Because again, the whole we are survivors, but at what cost, right? That's the whole thing. The point of that conversation is not exposition. It's not to let Ellie know shit. It's for Tess's character. It's to show that she feels guilt and that she longs for redemption. It's not her being a cynical asshole. People have told me that I should be happy about the show because they have so many moments where they say things word for word and the same things happen and blah blah blah, but it feels like they just tried to copy the text without understanding what the fuck the text means to begin with. They copied the lines and the events without understanding why the lines are said, with what intent, with what thoughts in mind, with what feelings, without understanding why the events happen the way that they happen, why people do the things that they do and the way that they do at the time that they do. It feels, I don't know, like a knockoff.
There's a Firefly base camp somewhere out west with doctors. They're working on a cure.
Marlene, she said that they have their own little quarantine zone. With doctors, they're still trying to find a cure.
Yeah, we've heard that before, huh, Tess?
Yeah, so they're making that conversation happen here.
It's the key to finding the vaccine. That's what this is. We've heard this a million times.
And that whatever happened to me is the key to finding a vaccine.
Oh, Jesus.
It's what she said.
Oh, I'm sure she did.
Ever.
Fuck you, man. I didn't ask for this.
You and me both.
So in the game, she says it very differently. She goes, hey, fuck you, man. I didn't ask for this. She's not being this aggressive. She's not being like, hey, fuck you, man. I didn't ask for this. She's not trying to be tough. She's just being like, hey, look, this is the cards I'm dealt. I'm not the one saying it. It's Marlene. Like, why are you, you know? But here, Ellie's just being like, I don't like it. But yeah, so we're having this conversation now instead of yesterday. I get it. I get it.
Let's just finish it.
I mean, we've come this far. Let's just finish it.
Let's just finish it.
We get what we want.
Is he gonna say? Do I need to remind you? Nope.
Don't.
Not funny. Ellie wouldn't do that. She's not that much of a dick. She understands the severity of the situation. She watched Riley as she turned, and Ellie just remained the same. Ellie probably had to kill Riley. Ellie understands the fucking severity of the situation. We need to remind ourselves that Ellie's a traumatized kid.
Can I have a gun?
Absolutely not.
Okay, Jesus, fine. I'll have to throw a fucking sandwich at them.
She doesn't start asking for a gun this early on.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Are they gonna talk about the fact that it got bombed? It does look dope, by the way. Here. It looks awesome.
Is this where they bombed?
Yeah, they hit most of the big cities like this.
So Ellie knows that they bombed. In the original, she doesn't. She's like, what the hell happened here? And Tess is like, they bombed the place, you know? They thought that that was gonna kill the infected. So here, Ellie knows about the bombing. Originally, she doesn't. But mostly, same conversation.
So the state house is across there.
We have to check it from the hotel first.
If I remember correctly, they go through the hotel before they should have.
How did you get bit?
Well, how were you bitten? I mean, you must have been somewhere you shouldn't to find the infected in the zone.
You know the old mall in the QZ?
Yeah, I'd sneak out. I was in this military boarding school.
You'd sneak out?
You know, explore the city. I was in the mall when I ran into infected.
So now they're having this conversation. They would have had it originally after their first interactions with a clicker, actually. They go through this, like, one of the big fucked up buildings. They encounter a clicker, they encounter a bunch of infected. A bunch of shit happens. They are followed by a bunch of infected into this garage and they close it. And Joel gets a severed hand on his shoe. And I was like, you got something on your shoe? And he's like, oh shit. Ugh. She's like, gross. And then in this garage, as you kind of explore and you upgrade your weapons and all that, Tess and Ellie have this conversation. But so far from what I'm hearing, it's the same. Kinda.
One that's sealed off and boarded up and no one's supposed to go in ever, that one?
I mean, similar. Not the same, but similar.
Whatever, I snuck in.
See, the way that she goes about it, she's like, whatever, I snuck in. She's like, ugh, fuck you, old person. You know, like, do whatever I want. In the game, she's more like, this is more kind of like curious rather than reprimanding her. She's like, that place is off limits. How the hell did you get in there? Instead of just going like, oh, you know the one you're not supposed to go in? And instead of saying, whatever, I snuck in, Ellie says, well, I had my ways.
Wanted to see what it was like. Didn't think there was going to be anything in there, and then...
Bullshit. You already knew. In the game, you already knew what was in there. It is understood. It's left pretty clear that this wasn't Riley's and Ellie's first time in the mall. They've already been there at least once before. Riley's like, hey, remember when I took you here? And Ellie's like, what are we doing here? Why are you taking me here again? You know? And they have these habits, like, they have this thing, this metal thing that they usually, like, prop up on top of something and they crawl in between. They always do that. It's like a habit. That's their way of getting through. Ellie says, it always feels like we're gonna get crushed. So they've already gone through there more than once, and then it falls, and they're like, well, shit, we gotta find another way through now. Which is why they end up exploring the Halloween store, which they had never seen before. That is what's new. But here Ellie's like, oh, I just wanted to see what it was like. I don't know if she's meant to be bullshitting here or not, but if she's meant to be truthful here, then that's not accurate. And if she's bullshitting here, I don't know why she's bullshitting, because originally she doesn't bullshit Tess. She kind of just like leaves it vague because she doesn't want to say too much because it's a painful memory. I don't know.
One just came at me out of nowhere.
Also, that's not true. It's not that one just came out of, I mean, kinda, but they were being chased by a good amount of them throughout the mall, and Ellie ended up falling, and one of the ones that were chasing them got to her and, you know, got on top of her and bit her. She was protecting herself. So it's not that it was out of nowhere. It just caught up to her.
So it was just you in there alone?
Yeah.
Why is there a need for her to bullshit? In the original, Tess doesn't ask her, so she doesn't say anything about that. You know, she doesn't mention her friend until the end, obviously, when she reveals to Joel that she wasn't alone, that her best friend was there, and she got bit too. But Tess, originally, in this conversation, doesn't ask her if she was alone. She asks her about Marlene. She's like, were you with Marlene? And it was like, no, I went to her afterwards.
How old are you?
14.
Joel is the one that asks her her age, not Tess. Well, he doesn't even ask her. He just goes, what are you, like 12? And she's like, I'm 14, not that that has anything to do with anything.
Nobody's gonna be coming after you, right? Like mom, dad, boyfriend.
I'm an orphan, and no.
This just feels like an attempt at exposition that is done way better in the game. Because it's not just a long conversation where it's like, okay, tell me all your basic character traits. How were you been? Were you alone? How old are you? Do you have parents? Do you have a boyfriend? Are you straight? You know, like it's a bunch of conversations that don't happen like that in the game, not in the same way, not at the same time. It's Ellie's and Joel's first conversation where you find out Ellie's age, not because Joel asks, but because he makes fun of her. And you find out she's an orphan, not because she literally says, I'm an orphan, but because he's like, where are your parents? And she's like, where are anyone's parents? They've been gone a long, long time. That's it. She doesn't go, I'm an orphan. I was placed in this school for orphans. Need I remind you? My parents are dead. By the way, did you know? I'm an orphan. Like, there's a moment where you do talk about the military boarding school. Like, Ellie talks about it with Joel. She indirectly, but not so indirectly, calls herself an orphan, but she doesn't go, I'm an orphan. Ellie says, nice way of saying orphanage. So that's where, you know, she's owning that, like, orphan title, I guess, kinda. But she's not saying I'm an orphan. She already explained to Joel that her parents have been gone. Also, the question about Ellie's sexuality doesn't really come into play at all in the first game. Like, Joel Joel never, or Tess, neither of them, no one is ever like, do you have a boyfriend or something? That never happens because it's very clear that she's single. I know that this is the show planting the question of, is Ellie straight, because of her reaction like, no, I would never have a boyfriend, you know? But in the game, there is a moment where she steals the gay porno mag from Bill, and she says, I want to see what all the fuss is about. She's like, I want to see what all the fuzz about men is all about, and she very clearly doesn't get it. She throws away the magazine. So now this is the show going like, Ellie might not be straight, guys. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think this alleviates any shock from the moment where she kisses Riley, because it's like, if you had assumed that Ellie was straight up until that point.
So...
One, that is just... okay. But also, like, it's Ellie. Come on, man. Can you really imagine her being straight? I can't. I never would have imagined Ellie as straight.
So there aren't super infected that explode fungus spores on you?
Shit, I hope not.
Or ones with split
You're
open
talking about
heads that
bloaters?
see in the dark like bats?
In the game, she doesn't know about any of this. She doesn't know what a bloater is. She doesn't know that it exists. She doesn't know what a clicker is. She doesn't know that it exists. She's still coming to terms with the idea that the creature that bit her is called a runner, because Tess and Joel call them runners. In that conversation from the garage where Ellie explains how she got bit, she says, one of the ones that you guys call runners bit me. And it is Tess that explains to Ellie what a clicker is, and it is Joel that explains to Ellie what a bloater is from scratch. She doesn't know beforehand. We're taking a good amount away from Ellie's innocence from the beginning. We're taking away how Tess and Joel, especially Joel, kind of just parent her a little.
Ow, shit. Sorry, that was me.
Tess.
Sorry. Come on, stay close to me.
So we're taking a lot away from their arcs, which I don't like, and their dynamic, which I don't like. Makes me sad that we're taking so much away from it just for the sake of exposition.
What was that?
Okay, I know what moment this is supposed to be.
What the hell was that?
Tess, you hear that?
Yeah. Sounded pretty far away, though. Are we safe? For now. Come on.
Oh yeah, the frog playing the piano. So we're in the hotel, which we're not supposed to be at. Tess is dead by the time that we get to the hotel.
You ever stay in a place like this?
No, a little out of our league.
Yeah, no. This is a conversation between Ellie and Joel only. It builds like a sense of casual conversation between them now that they're starting to have, because Ellie starts to ask Joel about himself.
Did you go to coffee shops a lot?
I did. All the time.
And what would you get?
Just coffee.
They get to the hotel in Pittsburgh. This is way after. And Ellie's like,
You ever stay at a place like this?
he's like, no,
this
this
is
is
too
too
rich
good
for
for
my
my
blood.
blood. And she's like, I bet it was nice. You know, again, it builds some casual conversation between them. It builds some care between them. They've already had conversations where Ellie is like, I won't lay you down with this, you know, back at Bill's, shit like that. They've already started building a good amount of their relationship there. So we're having it here feels out of place.
I don't know how to swim.
Seriously?
Do you think we have pools in the QC?
No, smart ass. I mean,
So we're making it far more aggressive again, far more aggressive and sarcastic than the way it originally works, which is, it's a nice little moment between the three of them in the original where Ellie discloses for the first time that she can't swim, which is right before they get to the Capitol building, by the way.
Home stretch, Tess.
Not here, because everything is all mixed up and weird. They get to this place right in front of the Capitol building where there's a bunch of water, and Ellie says like, just so it's out there, I can't swim. And instead of making fun of her, either of them, Tess just goes like, okay, come with me. It looks like it's shallow here. Like, she kind of guides Ellie. No one makes fun of her. And Ellie, in that moment, says, I'm glad Marlene hired you guys. It's like a nice little moment where Ellie shows appreciation for what Joel and Tess have done for Ellie so far, because this is right before Tess dies. Like, they've gone through a lot more than here.
This is so gross.
Completely new.
Oh, check it out. Ding, ding.
So they're having her do this, but be far more annoying at it. They're having that moment, but they're fucking it up.
Yes, sir. I would like your finest sweet, please.
Joel is supposed to be on the other side of that for that. So that, you know, she's talking to him like he works at the hotel. He's like, what are you doing? She's like, why, yes, you can carry my luggage upstairs. And he's like, you're a weird kid. But, you know, they're creating some very playful banter. They're not being obnoxious.
you're a weird kid.
Yeah, you're a weird kid.
You are a weird kid.
We get it. Your hand, we get it.
Holy shit.
Come on, it wasn't that bad.
We tried climbing 10 frickin' floors with our knees.
I get it, realism, but Joel and Tess were fucking machines.
Maybe I could climb up there and open it from the inside.
So we're separating Tess from Joel and Ellie instead of Tess and Ellie from Joel. This never happens.
Nice knife. Where'd you learn to do that?
The circus.
Why'd they make Ellie such a brat here? She's so sarcastic and such a dick. In the game, she's not that bad, man. She actually has charm and she's likable. Like, yeah, again, she's a teenager, but like, even when she acts up, it's either funny or justifiable.
How about you let me go first and keep your voice down?
Okay.
Like, when Joel gets grumpy with her that one time that she saves his life, and he's like, oh, well, I told you to stay put, you know? She starts acting up with him for a little bit, because she's hurt, you know? Because she saved his life, and he's not showing gratitude for it, and instead he's just being a fucking grump about it. She acts up, she gets sarcastic with him, she talks back, all that. But it's justified. In that moment, you agree with Ellie, and you feel for her. And you're like, oh, Joel, what the fuck is wrong with you? You get annoyed at Joel, not at Ellie, even though Ellie is supposed to be the annoying teen there. But she's not. I don't know why they made her so sarcastic all the time. She's not likable at all here.
Where are you from?
Texas,
What about Tess?
Detroit. It's in Michigan.
I go to school. I know where Detroit is.
What is this? What is this supposed to be? Did they, like, get stuck on 19-year-old Ellie and make 14-year-old Ellie the same? Because 19-year-old Ellie is a lot more sarcastic than 14-year-old Ellie. 19-year-old Ellie is a lot colder, more sarcastic, less amicable. She's a lot more closed off because of the things she's been through and because she really is Joel's daughter, you know what I mean? She becomes a lot more like Joel as time progresses over the second game because we see her growing way older than in the first game. The first game, it's just over the span of 1 year. We only see Ellie from 14 to nearly 15. Meanwhile, in the second game, we see her go from 15 to like 20 or 21. It's a lot more. So that is my question, right? Did they just get stuck on Ellie being this sarcastic, cold, aloof person when she is older, when she's 19, and they just plastered that personality onto 14-year-old Ellie, who is not that sarcastic, and she's more playful and more innocent and more charming and more outgoing. She makes a lot more jokes. She smiles a lot more, you know? What's meant to make it hurt so much more when she becomes older and she becomes more like Joel at his worst.
Ever kill one? Yeah. Was it hard knowing they were people once?
They're still people. Well, depends on the stage, but up to the point where they're stalkers, they're still people.
Put the gun down, Joe.
But in that time that they're separated, Tess is meant to get bit.
I'm fine.
So they just used it to force conversation between Ellie and Joel, even though they could have done it differently, you know, more like in the game. Yeah, there's this bullshit. So they removed spores and instead they introduced this bullshit. Again, I want to make it clear. Cool idea on its own, separate, but spores are such an important storytelling device in the games. In the first, they are what shows Joel that Ellie's not lying, because he sees her breathing in spores and nothing.
I've seen her breathe enough spores to take down a dozen men. Nothing.
That is what shows Joel that Ellie is truly immune, because we know that when people breathe spores in, they start coughing immediately. Like immediately. They breathe it in, they're already fucked. Ellie doesn't cough when she breathes the spores in.
I'm not coughing, you see?
And Joel is like, how the hell are you breathing in this stuff? And she's like, I wasn't lying to you. It's such a good storytelling device there. It also is a warning of when there are older infected in the area, in a closed area.
All these spores mean they've been here for a while. Keep your eyes peeled for older infected.
It's also a really good storytelling device in the second game when Nora sees Ellie breathing spores. That is when she says, you're breathing spores. You're her, which is such a fucking line, and we're not gonna have that here. You realize how much we've lost just because they decided to make it more realistic, even though, like, it's not realistic because you have things like clickers, man. You have mushroom heads walking around. It's not meant to be realistic. Not like that. Just have your fun with it, man. It just bothers me. Instead, they introduced this, which again, if spores weren't a thing in the game, it would be a cool idea, but now that we know that this is what replaced the spores, it just makes me so mad. It's like a fungus thing, I get it, but come on.
You're not immune from being ripped apart. You understand?
That is true. She's not immune from being ripped apart.
I'm trying to keep you alive.
But I don't think Tess should have needed to say that to Ellie. I think Ellie fully understands it.
Museum.
We're gonna go to the museum, which is where Tess gets bit. That looks so dope, I have to admit. We're gonna introduce the clickers here, right?
Marlene packing one of these or just sandwiches?
Yeah.
I do have to admit, that reminds me of Abby's conversation with Lev about gas masks.
Spores. Masks on. I don't have one. Do you guys not believe in gas masks? We were on the run.
I have a spare hand.
She doesn't insist about getting a gun until Bill, because she hasn't built that trust to ask for things like that yet, but you know, fuck all that. Yeah, this is the place where they encounter their first clicker instead of that one building at night. Damn ceiling's falling apart.
Damn ceiling's falling apart. Be careful.
They make clickers seem so much more of a threat than they are in the game. Like, don't get me wrong, they're pretty deadly in the game, and they do make a big deal out of them. But here, I remember that they made clickers seem like more rare than they actually are, and something that you can't just grab and kill. Even though, I don't know, Joel should probably have a few shivs in his pocket right now. They're doing the echolocation thing, which is accurate. That is how they are. I mean, it's kind of similar to the first introduction of a clicker.
Clickers?
Shit. Go.
They don't look that good, I have to admit. The masks, they don't look that good. I know that they did this with, like, it's not CGI, it's like, that's a person with a mask. It doesn't look that good, I have to admit. I'm used to the, like, amazing graphics of the games. Oh, fuck. So, there was an earthquake in the middle of that. So, the world really doesn't want me to watch this and review it in peace, I guess. Holy shit, it's all fine though. Anyway. So these sound a lot like they did in the original first game. You're trying to reload. Again, this whole light thing wouldn't be a problem if you had one of those flashlights that you can attach to the straps of your backpack. Like, you know, like in the game. Okay, it's dead, Joel. They made them seem a lot tougher than they are. Did she get bit there?
Well, I didn't shit my pants.
I think that's it. Ellie, you okay?
Other than shitting my pants, I'm fine.
How about you, kid? You okay?
Define okay.
Are you still breathing?
Do small panic breaths count?
Yeah, they count.
Right? I'm okay.
You fucking kidding me?
She got bit again. I don't know why. I guess, okay, I guess I know why. It's weird. They didn't have spores to show to Joel that she's not lying. So they introduced Ellie getting bit again, I guess. I mean, it's not like it doesn't happen in the games. It's just the next time she gets bit, it's at the very end. But sure, you could have just had spores. So Tess is supposed to be a bit out of wind now.
Oh, shit. Tess, how are you holding up?
Just a bit winded. Look this way. This will get us to the roof.
And she's supposed to change in behavior now.
There's a firefly logo on his arm. What if we get there and they're all dead?
They won't be.
But how do you know?
I just do. Look, it's gonna be fine.
Okay.
Has to be.
And she's supposed to be bit.
Over there?
Yeah, no, it looks scary.
No, it looks scary. So they're trying to replicate that one scene.
Now Watch your step as you're going out, because it's gonna be a little...
You mean the first bite didn't take?
How about you just take the good news?
Yeah, she's changing in behavior. So, editing Felix here. I didn't notice this when I was recording, but as I was editing this, I just noticed that they used the fucking allowed to be happy motif here too, before the end of the episode, and I swear to God, hearing it gave me the same chills that nausea gives you when you're about to throw up. I'll talk more about this in the end of the episode though. I just wanted to mention it here, because I don't want it to go unnoticed, because I will say this later, but that is my favorite track in all of The Last of Us, and it legitimately makes me physically ill. It makes me physically sick to hear it in the show. I don't know how else to describe it. Anyway, that's it. Originally in the game, like, she does hide that she's gotten bit. Tess doesn't get as aggressive. She gets more like desperate. She starts to sound a little bit naive about it because she's so desperate for it to work, but she doesn't get like angry at Joel. Sorry, that's my dad texting me because, you know, we had an earthquake. So Tess doesn't get like angry at Joel. Like, she does get not angry, but she gets a little bit aggressive with him when he's just staring at Ellie and thinking of his daughter and like looking at his watch. But it's exactly because he's not going against Tess's orders here. He's just following them. He is just going with what Tess tells him to do because, again, she is the one in control. She is the boss. So he's just going with her orders. But he does have a little moment with himself inside his head because Tess and Joel don't stay behind and Ellie just kind of goes on her own. No, it's more that Tess remains behind and Joel and Ellie are the ones that go first. And they have that little moment where they stare off in the distance and Joel looks at her, then at his watch, because he's thinking of Sarah, obviously. But he is not being like, well, I still don't believe this whole immunity thing. Obviously he doesn't, but he doesn't have to say it every 3 seconds, you know what I mean? Especially because they don't have her get bit again in the game because they have spores. It's exactly because he is already having a lot of trauma responses that Tess keeps having to remind him to stay focused on the task at hand. So it's not that she's like, oh, can't you just take the good news? Can't you just imagine that for once we could win? It's more like, I think she's still in denial about the fact that she is gonna die from this. Like, even if everything went right, there was no way that they could have developed a vaccine so quickly that it would have saved Tess, but I think she was still in denial about it. Regardless of all that, again, that's the thing about Tess. She longs for redemption. It's a big theme in The Last of Us, to long for redemption. I think it's a big thing in The Last of Us. Tess's thing isn't just like, I want to be saved, I want to survive. It's also that she doesn't want to die a completely horrible piece of shit that she has become, at least in her mind, right? She doesn't want to die just a shitty smuggler. She wants to have done at least something right. She wants to know that this task is being carried over after her death. So she just tells him, hey, we're almost done. I just need you to focus. And Joel's like, yes, ma'am. But he's already starting to get attached. He's already starting to have these responses where he's like, well, this person is just a kid. And Tess doesn't want to sit around now that she knows she's bit. So again, I think they're taking Tess's change in behavior here, but they're misunderstanding why exactly she gets sort of aggressive with Joel. It does have to do with her being bit. It has to do with her being desperate. But it's not, they don't have that conversation exactly because the point is not that Joel is too skeptical. The point is that Joel is human, right? And he feels things, and Tess can't afford to have all these feelings in the way. I know this is a bit of a tangent, but I don't know how Tess would have felt about Joel's decision in the end of part 1. That would be interesting to think about.
Is it everything you hoped for?
So is that everything you hoped for?
So is this everything you were hoping?
Jury's still out.
Jury's still out.
But man,
But man,
you can't deny the view.
can't deny that view.
Can't deny that view.
They're replicating it. Is he gonna look at his watch?
Come on, let's get there before it's dark.
Come on, this way.
We're getting the you and me version of The Last of Us. He does look at his watch a little. Okay. I mean, similar enough, I guess, but I miss the moment where Tess is like, look, we're almost done. Stay focused. Like, it's clear Tess knows about Sarah. Yeah, they're almost getting to the capital. Why am I hearing music from the second game? It's Unbound, isn't it? Why am I hearing Unbound at such a non-Unbound moment? Bro, why play random music from the second game where it doesn't belong? So yeah, the Fireflies are all dead. And here comes like the grossest fucking scene ever. I don't know why they had to change it to Infected instead of Fedra.
Come on! Tess!
Yeah, she's desperate. No! And they're all dead inside. Are we replicating that scene?
No. No, no, no.
Maybe they had a map or something that would tell us where they were going.
Maybe they had a map or something to tell us where they were going.
I mean, there's gotta be a fucking radio or something, right?
Similar enough.
Who killed them? Fedra?
No.
They originally do get killed by Fedra.
Tess, what are you doing? What are you doing, Tess?
Where did Marlene say that she was taking you?
I don't know, just west.
Where was this lab of theirs?
Oh, she never said. She only mentioned that it was someplace out west.
She just said it was a place out west.
Tess, it's over. We are going home. It is over, Tess! Now, we tried. Let's just go home.
This is not my fucking home!
Okay, that's completely new. Instead of "that's not my fucking home," she would have said, I'm not going anywhere. You know, but that's later on in the conversation.
I'm staying.
I'm staying. Okay.
Our luck had to run out sooner or later.
Our luck had to run out sooner or later.
You guys are pretty good at this stuff.
It's called luck. And it is gonna run out.
What are you talking about?
You going on?
No, don't! Don't touch me.
She's like, holy shit, she's infected. But like, she's supposed to be like, holy shit. She's infected, you know? She's like, she's recognizing, she's the one to recognize it. Jill's like, what are you talking about? He doesn't get it, but Ellie immediately recognizes it because she's been through that same grief. She's seen it firsthand. She's lived it firsthand. Like, not only in Riley, but herself, right? And so, I guess here it's similar enough.
Show me.
Joel.
Let me see.
Joel. I didn't mean for this.
Show it to me.
Christ.
Oh, Christ.
Oops. Right.
Oops, right?
Oops, right?
Take your bandage off.
Show me your arm.
Give me your arm.
Look, this is real. Josh is fucking real.
She's fucking real. Okay.
This was 3 weeks. I was bitten an hour ago, and it's already worse. This is fucking real, Joel.
I need you to get her to Bill and Frank's.
She mentions Tommy, not Bill.
You've got to get this girl to Tommy's. He used to run with this crew. He'll know where to go.
No, that was your crusade.
This is your chance. And you said everything right. All the shit we did.
I am not doing that.
Yes, you are. Look. There's enough here that you have to feel some sort of obligation to me, so you get her to Tommy's.
Please say yes.
I mean, it's a similar sentiment to when she's like, they're switching up the... doesn't have the same impact. Granted, there's so much more said than left for the subtext, which makes me sad because The Last of Us is a game with a shit ton of subtext and I love it for it. There's a lot said with few words and with few looks and all that. Not to mention, like, what the fuck would Bill and Frank do? Why do we need to keep forcing this focus on Bill and Frank? And also Tess begging Joel to say yes feels... Tess begging Joel? Excuse me? Like, she does have to convince him, don't get me wrong, but she never begs him for shit. There's that little talk about the obligation thing, but I don't know if they'll talk about that in a minute, so... So these are the ones from far away that are getting to them.
They're here.
Damn it.
What are you doing?
Making sure that they don't follow you.
I can buy you some time, but you have to run.
You want us to just leave you here?
Yes.
There is no way that...
I will not turn into one of those things.
Joel.
Make this easy for me.
Come on. Make this easy for me.
Say who you can say.
Nope. No, I can fight.
I can fight.
No! We're not leaving her! Get off me, you fucker!
I'm sorry, but... Ugh. And it doesn't make sense because afterwards, Ellie's words say that she doesn't care, actually. Or that she doesn't feel guilt, because Ellie in the game feels a lot of guilt over Tess's death. She tries to constantly bring it up, and Joel always cuts her off. She feels very guilty because Tess had to die to the infection, and Ellie just happened to be immune. She was like, why me? Like, why do I have to be immune? And also Tess died helping Ellie. She wouldn't have gotten bit if it hadn't been for Ellie. Maybe Tess would have lived a lot longer if this hadn't happened. So Ellie feels all that guilt. But she doesn't get dragged away by Joel. Joel just goes, Ellie, which is the first time that he addresses her by her name, by the way. Ellie just goes, I didn't mean for this. And Joel just says, get a move on. And they just walk away. And Ellie does feel like shitty about it. She's like, what did we just do? We just left her to die. But she also understands that they do have to run because otherwise the three of them are gonna die and not just Tess, you know? Also, so they don't have the conversation about the obligation thing, which, why am I surprised? I shouldn't be surprised that they just didn't put that in, but I'm so annoyed. They keep skipping extremely important lines. In the original, Fedra gets there, because it's not infected, it's Fedra, and he's still in denial, and he goes, no, I can fight, and she cuts him off, and she pushes him.
Let's fucking go.
And that's when he takes one last good look at her for a little bit. And this scene, I think even people that like the show can agree with me that this adaptation was ass. It felt rushed. And not in the good way, Neil Druckmann. Not in the good way.
There's like two complaints that people have now. It's like they wanted more. Some stuff felt rushed to them, which to me is like a compliment of like leave them wanting more.
It's not a compliment, Neil. I don't know if it was you or someone else. This was rushed. You guys somehow managed to make it unnecessarily longer and still take out so much of the original material that it is unrecognizable as you. Like, it is just, what the fuck is this? What have you done to Tess, man? What have you done to Mother? She was mothering and now she's just... What the fuck is this? I'm legitimately frustrated with this. I don't know what the point of changing all this was. Like I said, there's a lot that is said instead of left for subtext. Like when she says, I never ask you for anything. I never asked you to feel the same way that I do. That's an interpretation of it, but like you couldn't have just left that to interpretation like fully. You couldn't, because in the original she just says the obligation thing, which is what for a lot of people kind of confirms that there was something romantic going on, but she never says I felt one way and you felt another. That's the interpretation of a lot of people. I've talked about this with other fans of the games, and that's their interpretation of it, that Tess felt something for Joel and Joel couldn't feel it back. And that was Neil's original idea for Joel, but Troy's interpretation of the character was different, and they ended up going for that because it was far more interesting. It was far more interesting to have Joel actually feel something for Tess, so the death scene could be more impactful.
This also gets into something interesting for me as a writer, which is you have a certain notion of characters or how you want the structure to be, and then once it's interpreted through actors like Troy, it changes. Like I've always imagined as Joel doesn't really care for Tess. He's completely shut down, and Troy treated it differently, which is I think he really cares for Tess, and even though he might not show it, and we just kind of embrace that. And you kind of see that later when Tess gets infected. That wasn't how the scene was originally envisioned, that Joel has such a reaction, but it became a lot more interesting to own that.
But it seems that they went back to the original Neil idea for Joel because Troy Baker isn't here, and I've been thinking about this. I feel like the game isn't just Neil Druckmann, you know? Obviously. It isn't even just every developer. It is also the actors. It is a perfect combination that you cannot replicate. So the interpretations of the actors and the writers and the co-directors of this, it's different. So it feels extremely off. The relationship between Joel and Tess is completely butchered, and Tess is completely butchered, and everything is just distorted and mangled. It's not good. Are we supposed to have Tess's breathing moment where she goes and she processes it? She just aims her gun. I don't like how they've made the runners just sound like typical zombies, like instead of people that are suffering and crying all the time. Yeah, we get this super gross scene. And I think here we get another part 2 song. I'm hearing it. I'm gonna be so mad.
Watch this, Lise. You can actually pinpoint the second when his heart rips in half. And now.
Oh no! How fucking dare you? Wait, that actually makes me mad. How fucking dare you use Allowed to Be Happy in a moment like this? Allowed to Be Happy is such a meaningful song to me. I forgot about this. Allowed to Be Happy means so much to me. It's my favorite track from the whole soundtrack of all of The Last of Us. It plays in very specific moments. It has meaning, and you're taking away its meaning by putting it here. Allowed to Be Happy has nothing to do with this. Not in a moment like this. Not in the show. No, Allowed to Be Happy is Abby's song, man. Fuck you. That actually hurts. Don't do that. I'm tempted to mute it because, like, I don't want to associate my favorite song with this. I'm actually gonna mute it. I'm muting it. I don't want to hear it. I just need the episode to officially end. Okay, we're done. We're done. We're done. I'm actually mad, man. I did not enjoy that one bit. Holy shit, that felt so disrespectful. The way that they handled Tess was so disrespectful. The way that they handled the music was so disrespectful. The fuck happened to Tess? I know she'll appear again for the 3rd episode for the Bill and Frank thing. What the fuck? That is bullshit. And I know that in the next episode, Ellie will say something that will completely erase any possible feelings she could be having about the whole Tess situation, and it will take out the weight of the ending of the 1st season. I don't even know what to say, man. I'm just annoyed. I remember disliking the 2nd episode a lot, but holy shit. How dare you use Unbound and Allowed to Be Happy? Like, Unbound had nothing to do with the moment that it was playing, and Allowed to Be Happy, that is Abby's fucking song. Don't touch that. Like, the whole point is that you have to get over Tess like this. You have to, like, keep going, because that is Joel's mindset. Things happen and we move on. That is his mindset throughout most of the game.
How many times do we need to go over this? Things happen and we move on.
It's just...
That's enough.
You're right. I'm sorry.
Things happen, we move on. We don't let ourselves dwell on it.
Best not to dwell on it.
How can you not?
It doesn't have like a big emotional moment. Tess doesn't get that. She doesn't get a big emotional moment other than the time where she just breathes, processes it, and then you get to see her body, and then you just move on. You have to fight immediately. You have to get into that headspace of, I gotta fight to get out of this, which is very similar to Abby, by the way. Like, I know that someone that we cared about just died. We can't allow ourselves the proper time to grieve and process that trauma because we're in the middle of something and we need to fight to get out of it. Stay focused on fighting, stay focused on moving. If we dwell on it, we die. And not only that, right? Obviously, Joel doesn't want to be emotionally vulnerable, and he just buries that shit because he is traumatized. And Ellie just has to sit with that alone. Later on, they get out of it. Joel sees her breathing spores. The introduction of the pallet mechanic, where she has to step on the pallet so that he can move her places because she doesn't know how to swim, that's introduced. They get out of the subway station and they have a little bit of a conversation about it because Ellie wants to talk about it. She's like, listen, about Tess, you know, and he's like, here's how this thing's gonna play out. You don't bring up Tess. Ever.
Matter of fact, we just keep our histories to ourselves.
It's best we don't open up to each other. We're gonna be seeing in the third episode that the way that Ellie processes it and the way that Joel processes it, very different. Ellie's the one that is emotionally distant about it, and Joel is the one that I think he makes like a physical tribute to her. He is making her like a little grave or something. Completely different. So I don't know why they went down that route, right? And also, I want to add one more thing. The fact that they changed it from Fedra to infected that killed Tess, that also takes away from the ending. The point is that it's humanity that keeps disappointing Joel. Not just disappointing, but hurting him, taking things away from him. It's not the infection, it's humanity that's fucked up.
You know, as bad as those things are, at least they're predictable. The normal people that scare me. You of all people should understand that.
What does that mean?
Nothing.
It wasn't the infection that killed Sarah, it was a human. It was the infection that was ultimately gonna kill Tess, which is what needs to be done in order for it to be a thing for Ellie, for her survivor's guilt. But also, it needs to be Fedra that she kills herself with. She wants to give them time so that they can run and fight Fedra and not die along with her. But she's kind of like just, I'm gonna kill myself on my own terms. I will not turn into one of those things, she says. Here, she literally lets an infected kiss her. She lets herself be killed by Fedra in the game. And that also adds for Joel. He knows that Tess would have been dead anyway, no matter what. And he does feel, ultimately, that emotional obligation towards Tess to finish the task, like, you know, to do this for her. And so by the end, you know, it's humans trying to take Ellie away from him, not the infection. She can't get infected, you know.
I can't get infected.
For the sake of curing something that he doesn't give a shit about. He gives a shit about his daughter and, you know, the people close to him. But for all he cares, humanity can go to hell because it was humanity that ruined his life in the first place. And the infection is like humanity's failing, and his daughter's death is humanity's failing and his own failing the way that he sees it. So the fact that it was all infected, all everywhere, all the time, and no Fedra, for me, it takes a little bit away from the ending. But for now, we're gonna leave it here because that was the end of the second episode. Very disappointed, very annoyed with the musical choices, annoyed at what they did to Joel as a character, very annoyed with what they did to Tess as a character. But yeah, that's it. That's all I gotta say. Despite how angry it makes me, I'm having a lot of fun just kind of talking about my favorite games of all time. It's always fun to do that, even if I am doing it to hate watch the show and to be angry about it. And I'm, as weird as it may sound, I'm also excited to see the second season so that I can hate watch it and record my first reactions to it. But yeah, for now we're done. So I don't know why you're still here. Get away from me.
What the hell's he yapping about? Take a breath.
Oh, fuck.